Okay, Mr. Mayor, we are now live. I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I will call the meeting to order. Approval of our agenda. Is there any add-ons to our agenda here tonight? Seeing none. Need someone to move to put the motion on the floor, please. Moved by Councillor Colburn, second by Councillor Sutherland. Madam Clerk, would you take the vote, please?
Okay, when I call your name, please indicate whether you are for or against adoption of the minutes. Councillor Carol Barfoot.
For.
Councillor Kathy Moore-Coburn.
For.
Councillor Grant Pringle.
For.
Councillor Paul Sutherland.
For.
Councillor Ryan Thompson.
For.
Deputy Mayor Sue Carlton.
For.
And Mayor Dwight Burley.
For.
Thank you, and that carries.
Thank you. Declaration of interest, you can clear anytime you see fit here tonight. Minutes of the previous minutes. I have a recommendation that the minutes of the Committee of Adjustments held on December 15th, 2020 be adopted. Someone to move to put it on the floor, please. Moved by Deputy Mayor Carlton, second by Councillor Pringle. If there's no discussion on the motion, Madam Clerk, you take the vote, please.
Okay, when I call your name, please indicate whether you are for or against the motion. Councillor Carol Barfoot.
For.
Councillor Kathy Moore-Coburn.
For.
Councillor Grant Pringle.
For.
Councillor Paul Sutherland.
For.
Councillor Ryan Thompson.
For.
Deputy Mayor Sue Carlton.
For.
And Mayor Dwight Burley.
For.
Thank you, and that carries.
Thank you. Okay, moving on with our agenda here today. We have two public meetings. I'd like to call the first one to order, please. This is a meeting of the Committee of Adjustments to consider the application for consent for Larry Henry under Section 53 of the Planning Act regarding property legally described as Concession 6, Lot 21, Part Lot 22. Would the Secretary Treasurer please give your report? And I believe that'll be Jen.
Yes, sorry, I need to unmute myself there. Thank you. So there have been no requests for deferral or withdrawal of the application. Notice of this consent in accordance with Ontario Regulation 19796 made under the Planning Act was given on December 3rd, 2020 by ordinary mail to all property owners within 60 meters of the property which is subject to the application and to all the required agencies. Notice was also posted on the subject lands and the township's website. If you wish to be notified of the decision of the Committee of Adjustment, you must make a written request to the Secretary Treasurer of the committee. Only a person or public body that requests a notice of decision of that committee in respect to this proposed consent may submit an appeal.
Thanks, Jen. Could the planner please give the updated planning report regarding this file? Jen?
Yes. So this application is fairly straightforward. Mr. Henry would like to sever the property along the original the lot lines separating lot 21 and 22. So there is an image of the proposed severance in the report. The lot area and frontage that would result, it complies with the bylaw, so there's no accompanying amendment required. So I do provide a policy review in the report and basically go through the applicable policies per the PPS, the County Official Plan, and the application, as you see through that policy review, the application does meet the applicable policy requirements. So if I won't reread that section. So if the committee has any questions about the policy review, I'd be happy to answer them. So the committee of the comments that we received with this application, we have Bell Canada, the risk management official at Grace Auble Conservation Authority, Hydro One, and the historic Saugeen Métis, and they all have noted no objection to the application. The County of Grey Planning Department provided us with comments where they're deferring to Grey Sauble Conservation Authority for positive comments with regards to the environmental features. The Grey Sauble Conservation Authority, they have no objection to this proposed severance, but they do recommend that the mitigative measures that were identified in the environmental impact study be implemented through a development agreement. So that is something that can be done. And in the recommendation for this application is to approve it, subject to the property owner entering into a site plan agreement to ensure that mitigation measure is captured and development occurs according to the provisions of the environmental impact study. I won't read the, excuse me, I'm working off a small screen here. I won't read the recommendations for the recommended conditions. They are in the report, and the chair will read those. And so I recommend the application be approved. Ron Davidson is the planning consultant for this application. He is here tonight to answer any questions. I can answer any questions about the report, and I believe Mr. Henry is also on the line. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. 2 members of the public registered with the clerk to provide comments in support of or in opposition to the applicant. I will now hear from Larry Henry to make comments on this application. Please state your name, your first name and your last name for the records, please.
Yeah, I'll speak, Your Worship. It's Ron Davidson, Land Use Planning Consultant.
Okay, because that was my next part of my trip, but go ahead, Ron.
Yeah, Mr. Henry is on the line, but I think he has a sore throat or something and doesn't care to speak. He is here to answer questions. I'll be very, very brief. Jen hit on the fact that we had been speaking with the Conservation Authority. They were on site prior to the application being filed. They identified an area that they'd prefer to see the development occur or the house occur. So, and that's fine with Mr. Henry. The other thing that was done in advance of the application being filed was a Karst study. If you know that area of the township, and you probably do, in terms of the huge amount of land that shows as potential karst, that requires someone to dig some holes and determine that it's not karstic in there. And that was done by GM Blue Plan, and there's a study in Jen's file in that regard. As she said, it's a relatively straightforward application from this point. And yeah, there will have to be an agreement registered on title that would ensure that the recommendations of the Conservation Authority are in fact followed, and there's no issue there. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Are there any points raised by the agent or committee that anyone wishes to reply to? Does the committee have any comments? Seeing none, I will now call for motion on the decision. Madam Clerk, I will read my recommendation. That application B0820 be approved with the following conditions. 1, the reference plan be completed and a copy filed with the municipal clerk, or an exemption from the reference plan be received from the Land Registry Office. 2, that pursuant to Section 5342 of the Planning Act, the certificate of consent be affixed to the deed within 1 year of giving the notice of decision. Note, Section 5343 of the Planning Act requires that the transition approved by this consent must be carried out within 2 years of the issuance of the certificate, that is, stamping of the deed. 3, that the applicable applicant pays the applicable consent certificate fees at the time of certification of the deeds. 4, that the applicant pay 5% cash in lieu of parkland in accordance with Planning Act. 5, that the applicant enter into a site plan agreement, A, addressing tree removal outside of the woodland bird nesting and rearing season from May 1st to August 15th in any given year. B, identify the development envelope approved by the GSCA or requirement for a EIS if development is outside of the approved envelope. C, incorporate the recommendations of the Karst assessment. Do I have someone to move it from the floor, please? Moved by Councillor Colburn, second by Councillor Pringle. There's no discussion on the motion? Madam Clerk, would you take the vote, please?
Okay, when I call your name, please indicate whether you are for or against the motion as presented. Councillor Carol Barfoot.
4.
Councillor Kathy Moore Coburn.
4.
Councillor Grant Pringle.
4.
Councillor Paul Sutherland.
4.
Councillor Ryan Thompson.
4.
Deputy Mayor Sue Carlton.
4.
And Mayor Dwight Burley.
4.
Thank you, and that carries.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I'll now call for adjournment of this public meeting. Okay, moved by Councillor Sutherland, second by Deputy Mayor Carlton, that we adjourn. Madam Clerk, do we need to take a vote or just, no, I don't think so. Okay, so let's move on to our second public meeting here tonight. This is a meeting of the Committee of Adjustment to consider the application for minor variance for Jeff and Andrea Warner under Section 45 of the Planning Act regarding property legally described as concession 18 lot 10, set RP 16R1387 Part 1. Would the Secretary Treasurer please give your report?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There have been no requests for deferral or withdrawal of the application. Notice of this minor variance hearing in accordance with Ontario Regulation 296 made under the Planning Act was given on December 11th, 2020 by ordinary mail to all property owners within 60 meters of the property which is subject to the application and to all the required agencies. Notice was also posted on the subject lands and the township's website. If you wish to be notified of the decision of the Committee of Adjustment, you must make a written request to the Secretary Treasurer of the committee. Only a person or public body that requests a notice of decision of the committee in respect to this proposed minor variance may submit an appeal.
Thank you, Jen. Could the planner please give the updated planning report regarding this file?
Yes. So this application is really straightforward. Jeff and Amanda want to build a new house. The property that they purchased is a wee bit small. It actually has 3 property lines, and all 3 of those property lines are bounded by road allowance. So in the zoning bylaw, side yard setbacks for a property that abuts a road allowance is 15 meters. So they had some engineering done on the property, and they're requesting 6-meter side yard setbacks and an increase in height for their accessory structure. So the bylaw allows for 5 meters, and they are requesting 6 meters. When we look at what determines whether or not a minor variance is successful, we look at 4 tests. It must be minor. So as you can see in the report, they're proposing a residential use, an increase in height by for an accessory structure by 1 meter. We've seen applications in the township before, and a lot of times that can be due to the desire to store a like an RV in that accessory structure, or just the design of it. So 1 meter difference isn't anticipated to have an impact on the development of the lot or the aesthetics in the area. To reduce the side yard setbacks, we did have a conversation with the operations department. The unopened road allowance there, it's not going to be open. The reason why the road veered and created this property north to the north is because of the topography in the area. So there's no need to open up the road allowance south of their property, because north of the property there is an open and maintained road. It must be an appropriate or desirable use of the land, building, or structure. The lands are zoned for residential purposes, and they want to build a house, a garage, and a laneway. So those are common and acceptable uses, and that's what the zoning bylaw says they can do with that property. It must maintain the general intent and purpose of the official plan. The property is designated rural, and having a house on the property is in keeping with the designation of the rural designation in the county plan. There is karst on the property. It is mapped. They had GM Blue Plan do an assessment. There's no concerns. And it must maintain the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. It does. And that's as I've described above, that it must be minor. We have seen the exterior side yard setback be reduced. The road is not going to be opened. 6 meters would be considered an acceptable setback for this property. The northern lot line does appear to be densely treed, and that provides a tree buffer between the travel portion of concession 17 and the property. And then, as well as the increase in the height of the accessory structure by 1 meter, as I mentioned, it's a common request. There's no negative impact anticipated by increasing that. So I would conclude that it meets the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. So the comments that we received from the agencies, the county has no concerns, provided positive comments are received from Grey Sauble. The Historic Saugeen Métis have no concerns. Grey Sauble Risk Management Office, they have no concerns, and the Conservation Authority weren't able to get us their comments by the report submission deadline. I did receive them today. They have no objection to the application. So my recommendation, verbal recommendation, would be for the committee to approve this. With the comments submitted by the Conservation Authority, it demonstrates that the application meets the 4 tests of a minor variance. All of the agencies have signed off and have confirmed that the applicable provincial policy statement, regulations, county official plan policies have been met. So my recommendation is to approve it. If the committee has any questions for me, I'd be very happy to answer them. And I can see that I believe that Amanda Warner is on the call as well. If you have any questions for her, she is one of the registered property owners.
Thank you, Jen. 2 members of the public registered with the clerk to provide comments in support of or in opposition to the applicant. I will now call upon Jeff and Amanda Warner to make comments on this application. Are you going to make comments, or would I just refer to your agent? Amanda, are you there? Or?
Yes, I am. Sorry. Just you can speak to agent, please.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I'll now call upon the authorized agent, Don Ramsey, to make comments on this application. Don, are you there? Madam Clerk, is Don on the line?
Mr. Ramsey, you are muted. Mr. Mayor, if you'd like to call upon committee members for comments.
Okay. Is there any points raised by the applicant, or does the committee have any comments? Seeing none? I guess I'll just continue on with the agenda then, Madam Clerk.
Yes, Mr. Ramsey, if you have any comments, you have the opportunity to do so. Ms. Warner, I would also extend the invitation to yourself as well.
Seeing none?
So, Mr. Mayor, in the absence of comments further to the planner's recommendation, we would like to move to amend the motion as included on your agenda. Simply that minor variance application, if I can have the number here. So simply that minor variance application A0420 for Jeff and Amanda Warner be approved.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Do I have someone to move the motion, please? moved by Deputy Mayor Carlson, second by Councillor Sullivan. Is there any discussion on the motion before us? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, will you take the vote, please?
Thank you. When I call your name, please indicate whether you are for or against the motion as presented. Councillor Carol Barfoot,
For.
Councillor Kathy Moore Coburn,
For.
Councillor Grant Pringle,
For.
Councillor Paul Sutherland,
For.
Councillor Ryan Thompson,
For.
Deputy Mayor Sue Carlton,
For.
and Mayor Dwight Burley.
4.
Thank you, and that carries.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I'll now call for adjournment of this public meeting. Someone to move the motion, please. Moved by Councillor Thompson, second by Councillor Pringle. That we adjourn. Moving on to our agenda. We have no unfinished business. Our next meeting is February 16th at 5 o'clock. I do not believe we have any more business to conduct here tonight, Madam Clerk. So I need just a motion to adjourn, please. Moved by Councillor Barfoot that we're now adjourned. And we do not require a vote on that, Madam Clerk.
We require a vote of hands, please.
Okay. All in favor of adjournment, please. Looks like it's carried. Thank you, everybody. We are now adjourned.
Good evening.